To understand the media, we must have some sense of the economic dimensions of the media industry. There are 5 global firms. They are Time Warner, the Walt Disney Corporation, Viacom, News Corporation, and Bertelsmann. In terms of the global motion picture industry, or where movies come from, here are the large conglomerates that own everything. Comcast Universal Pictures, Viacom's Paramount Pictures, Time Warner's, Warner Brothers, Walt Disney Studios, the New Corporation's 20th Century Fox, and Sony Picture Entertainment. But what about the case of independent film? Some of the leading independent film companies are owned by the industry giants such as Focus Features or Comcast, Fox Searchlight or News Corporation, Sony Picture Classics or Sony/Columbia, Paramount Vantage or Paramount, and New Line or Time Warner. Concentration of media ownership means that fewer corporations own the media. At the same time that concentration of ownership has been occurring, conglomeration has been taking place. That is, media companies have become part of the much larger corporations which own a collection of other companies that may operate in highly diverse business areas. Vertical integration refers to the process by which one owner acquires all aspects of production and distribution of a single type of media product. Horizontal integration refers to the process by which one company buys different kinds of media, concentrating ownership across different types of media rather than up and down through one industry. In horizontal integration, media conglomerates assemble large portfolios of magazines, television stations, book publishers, record labels, and so on to mutually support one another's operations. The economic factors propelling both vertical and horizontal integration are clear. Owners perceive such arrangements as both efficient and profitable. In particular, integrated media conglomerates seeking the benefits of synergy are likely to favor products that can best be exploited by other components of the conglomerate. Synergy refers to the dynamic where components of a company work together to produce benefits that would be impossible for a single, separately operated unit of the company to do. Vertical integration becomes especially significant when the company that makes the product also controls its distribution. It also is more difficult for smaller media firms to compete with the major corporations who can use their vast and diverse holdings to saturate consumers during the promotional campaigns. The changes that were seen as a threat to serious broadcast news in the 1980s and 1990s are now the norm of the industry, with the broadcast networks now routinely incorporating entertainment, celebrities, human interests, and other light fare into the broadcasts. Conglomeration has affected print journalism as well. Some critics have long argued that corporate takeovers of print media put the emphasis on attracting and entertaining consumers rather than on informing citizens. In the U.S., most discussion about the First Amendment and free speech also focuses on the possibility of government censorship. The discussion is generally blind, however, of the impact of corporate ownership. The U.S. has a private ministry of information, metaphorically referring to the type of government-led propaganda system that exists in totalitarian societies. In the case of the contemporary U.S., however, private interests, not the government, largely control this information system. When a small number of firms with similar interests dominate the media industry, it begins to function in a way similar to a state information system. It is hard to question the underlying argument that those who own large media conglomerates have at least the potential to wield a great deal of political power. In some cases, owners of media companies have direct control over media products and thus are able to exert political influence by promoting ideas that enhance their interests. Owners can use media sites to disseminate a specific position on a controversial issue or to help legitimize particular institutions or behaviors. Just as important, owners can systematically exclude certain ideas from their media products. While control of information or images may never be total, owners can tilt the scales in particular directions quite drastically. Also, there is not a way of proving the connection, but the media's focus on the shortcomings of the government rather than the private sector seems consistent with the interests of the corporate media owners. So, the corporate view has become our view. The American view, even though the interests of the corporate entities that own mass media are far from universal. A concentrated media sphere can also undermine citizens' capacity to monitor their government's war-making powers. Those in power, those who benefit from war and empire, see the press as arguably the most important front of war, because it is there that consent is manufactured and dissent is marginalized. One possible political consequence of the concentration of media ownership is that, in some ways, it becomes more difficult for alternative media voices to emerge. In the age of multi-billion-dollar media enterprises, freedom of the press may be left to those who can afford to own what has become a very expensive press. And most online alternatives are limited to relatively small niche audiences, so this is very difficult to contend against.